A lime?
No, that's it. Oh, well,
That's
mint.
it. Well, and mint, of course.
Minty.
Today is all about mint. I'm so excited. I walked into the studio
This
today
is the one I brought for the fizz.
and just smelled the mint, and it was amazing.
So, mint.
Yeah,
It does.
you walk in and you smell the lime being juiced, and you smell the mint being prepared.
Are we
It's like
on?
my favorite thing.
All
Yeah,
right.
we're here. We like to go live a few minutes early.
Yeah, just to keep the talent guessing.
Got to,
Really
keep them
what
on their
that's about.
toes, right? So, welcome to the cocktail journey. We are here talking about the South Side today. I am Rachel Eva, your host. This is my home and my bar, and these are my lovely guests. If you've been here before, you probably have seen Stefan.
Yeah, I kind of live underneath here, and I pop out every once in a while for these live streams.
So Stefan Krupinski's been here for quite a few live streams. He helped us sort of start the 52 cocktails in 52 weeks back at the end of January. And then we've had Veronica here once before for the Clover Club, which is one of my favorite cocktails. We had so much fun doing that
Really
day.
bummed I missed that one.
I know, you were out of town.
Such a good time doing that.
It was great.
Moral of my story.
So Veronica, we call her V sometimes, is also back today, and we're going to do gin and lime and mint. It's the South Side. It's lovely. Do you guys want to say something about the cocktail?
Originated from my hometown,
That's right.
right? Well, as far as we know, as far as we understand, the history is a little murky, as it is with most cocktails.
The history we're accepting.
Yeah, our accepted history is that it originates from my hometown, New York, but more specifically, Long Island, kind of like a country club kind of deal, as far as I understand.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
If you're joining us for the first time and you've never been to a live stream before, put your name in the chat. Let us know where you're from and where you're coming in from. We've got quite a few of our regulars here. John, Burgeon, Sienna, Matthew, Michelle, John Schmid, and Diane. So
Hey,
welcome
friends.
back, y'all.
Welcome back.
You guys ready for some gin and citrus and mint? It's so
Yeah.
exciting.
This is one of my favorite sleepy, easy sour variations. 'Cause people don't. I mean, just the real simple variation of adding, including mint, can completely change the cocktail. Especially, if you're looking for something really refreshing. Mint's that's right up your alley, right? Super cooling.
Yeah, it's great. So what we're going to do, if you are new to the live stream, is we spend the first half hour just kind of going over, well, it doesn't have to be a full half hour. We want to get a cocktail in your hands as soon as possible. So I'm going to drop the recipe in the chat, and then V's going to start making one.
Yeah.
What we're going to do is we're going to make the modern classic version of the South Side, and this is a great opportunity to put your questions in the chat, ask us questions about it. We're going to talk about the basics of making the cocktail. If you've never made a cocktail before, you've come to the right place. Ask your beginning questions too. There's no question that's too simple for us to answer. What we recreate here at the Cocktail Journey is an opportunity to sit in front of the bar, in front of a bartender, and just shoot the shit and chat about cocktails and ask questions. So no judgment you'll find here. And then if you want to ask your nerdy questions, put those in the chat too. We tend to get second half into variations, families, history, nerdy techniques, that kind of thing. So everyone's
Between
welcome.
The two of us, the three of us, really.
We'll answer them for you for sure.
So let's make a drink.
Let's do
Let's
it.
do that.
All right, V's going to get started.
Yeah, so this is one of those cocktails, I think that much like the daiquiri, you can order it. If you don't know what to order and you're at any cocktail bar, you can order this cocktail and it's going to be delicious and it's going to quench your thirst and kind of hit the spot no matter what's going on. So I love to have this as like a back pocket cocktail. I know a lot of people, especially who aren't in the industry, they're always looking like, what should I order? I never know what to get. This is one of those that is always going to hit the spot. So,
yeah,
and super simple too.
If you see bartenders shaking cocktails, they can make this.
They can make this.
If
Absolutely.
you see mint in the bar top, they can make it.
They can make it. Absolutely. So we're going to start with our simple syrup. And this cocktail, as I mentioned before, very similar to the daiquiri, actually. So it's going to be 2 ounces of gin, 3/4 of simple, and 3/4 of lime. So we're going with the classic sour recipe. So 2, 3/4, 3/4. We'll get into a little bit of some of the variations therein. But so we'll start with this 3/4 of an ounce of my simple syrup. And this is just a 1-to-1, yeah?
Yep.
Yep.
Cool.
So we do around here, weight by weight,
Yes.
which is the most accurate way to do it. But you can also just eyeball it if you're just home bartending.
Yeah, I'm going to juice my limes fresh here. And I know we spoke about this during the Clover Club episode. I'm sure you guys mentioned it a number of times, but we want our fresh juice for our cocktails. Anyone who's been here for the cocktail journey, they know, right? You guys have harped on the fresh citrus and the importance of it. Mm-hmm. So I'm juicing my citrus fresh. Got 3/4 of an ounce measured out here. I did a little bit more.
I do always like to say, though, that if you've only got the plastic lime in your fridge, don't let that stop you from making a cocktail. Make a cocktail with the lime that you've got. Next time, get a fresh one from the store, because you won't be disappointed.
You're a chef.
Thank you very much.
So V's using, what do we call this, an elbow juicer?
Oh, yeah.
Is that what they're called?
Well, you have
That's
to
what
put your elbow
Stolte calls
into
it. Right?
Yeah.
And it looks like an elbow, right? It's a joint.
And these are my favorite too. At the grocery store, you can find like those yellow ones or the green ones. They're okay, but they can break on you pretty easily. So I love these steel ones. The one I have, I've had it for, I don't know, 6 years maybe.
Mm-hmm.
They look like this the first time you use them, and then the first time you wash them, they look like that.
Also, just quick tip, if you've never used one of these before, it's easy to think about how you put the lime in. You want to put the lime in with the cut side down, not up.
Otherwise, you're going to get in your eyes.
So cut side down so that the juice comes out through those little holes in the bottom.
There we go. And I'm grabbing a London Dry Gin. I love the brightness and the sharpness of a London Dry Gin in this cocktail because all the other ingredients are so simple. It just shines through really nicely and adds a little bit of snap as opposed to some softer styles of gin. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to go for a full 2 ounces, like I said before. And then I am going to dump my mint in the tin. Now you'll notice that I did not muddle. You can absolutely muddle your mint. So I'm going with I got like 7, 8 leaves in there. It kind of depends on the size of your mint leaves, but I'm not muddling because we've got some nice heavy-duty cold draft cubes, and those are going to do all the work that I need to do. When you have mint in your cocktail, I know like in the 90s, those mojitos, all the bartenders were putting their like elbows into muddling mojitos for 10 minutes, but your mint gets bitter when you over muddle it. All you need is for those skin capillaries to open up so you can get the flavor from the mint. And the ice does a perfectly good job of that.
I agree. Yeah. I think that if you're going to shake this cocktail already, just adding that added element of muddling the mint in there is actually going to overexpress the mint, and a lot of the more bitter components of the leaves themselves will end up in your drink, and you don't want that.
Mm-hmm. And so we're going to go up for this cocktail. As I said, it is a daiquiri or classic sour variation. And so what that means is that as I'm shaking, this is the coldest and the most diluted that the drink is ever going to be. So I want to make sure that I do a really good job. So we're not going to do any lazy shakes.
Get out of your way.
I got my, thank you. And I spoke about this on my Clover Club episode. So I'm either going to hold my tins with 2 fingers on either side to make sure they don't come apart, or I'm going to hold them from either end. All right. Ready?
Yeah.
So my tin is nice and frosty now, and I am going to grab, a little strainer here, and I'm going to grab my fine strainer because I don't want to get some like large mint chunks in my teeth or in my drink, and especially because it's served up, we just want it to look really pretty, so I'm going to fine strain this guy. And when you fine strain, you do wind up with like teeny tiny bits of mint. But I think that looks really pretty as opposed to having larger chunks.
I like it. I still like having the texture in there.
Yeah, it's nice. And then I've got a little garnish here. Oh, thank you.
I grab this from you.
Oh, you're so kind.
Yeah. Sous chef.
All right. And then we pre-made these little lime wheels. Everyone garnishes their cocktails a little bit differently. I just love the way that classic lime wheel looks. So what we did was we sliced them all the way through, and then I just cut from the middle to the outside edge on one side. Ooh.
We're good.
Good? Awesome. Cool, and there we go. We've got our Southside.
It looks perfect.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Does anyone want to take? I guess I should go for first taste.
Yeah, you should.
I made
You
it.
should.
Go for
Yeah.
a sip. That looks perfect. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Get all that beautiful aroma of the mint. The London Dry cuts through. Still get a little bit of juniper.
It's beautiful.
You get those little specks of mint. Kind of looks like little confetti on the top of the glass. So pretty. It's like the original, like whatever, the sparkly stuff that people put in cocktails these days.
Yeah. Someone mentioned your fancy garnish, which Stefan is going to do.
Yeah,
the
we'll
fancy
teach you how to do that one. Yeah.
lime wheel with the mint in the middle. So we'll definitely get there.
The one that you saw on the website?
Yeah.
That was me. That was.
So that
we have a couple like real great like garnish people here that have come through on the cocktail journey, like Megan, like yourself. Like cocktails look really delicious. That was my one like really beautiful looking contribution. I feel like the mint and the lime wheel.
Yeah.
So one of the things we were chatting
Sidecar.
about before the live stream is that there are so many different ways that we've seen this cocktail published over the years, especially when you go back to origin stories, as well as different ways that it's served, whether up or down, over rocks, different kinds of garnishes, different approaches, different recipes, different specs. And we were chatting about how this is just one of those cocktails. It was a pre-Prohibition-era cocktail. And so the way that this cocktail's journey through time really has changed a lot based on the tastes and the preferences and the interpretations over the years. I think, Stefan, you were saying, there's 10 different ways to make an old-fashioned over time, too.
Right.
And so I thought that was an interesting conversation because this does originate from, like, right before Prohibition. I think we were talking about one of the earliest recipes was from a book that was known as the last book to be published before Prohibition.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Right.
And so that was, 1917?
Somewhere in that
sounds
ballpark,
right.
yeah. The thing with the sour, right? We think of it as a drink that really had its heyday in the Prohibition era, right? As a way to kind of offset, lesser quality gins, bathtub gins, or what have you, some real sketchy, alcohol. Spirits, so that's how we kind of interpret the sour. But a lot of them weren't just created in a vacuum, right? They were created out of cocktails that originated right before it. So if you think about the sidecar, right, it predated with a brandy crusta, which eventually turned into a sidecar. But the crusta is a dead drink for us here in the modern era. Other than it looks really beautiful, there's not enough balance. There's not enough citrus. The sugar isn't right. It's just all booze. So yeah, it's like a more modern version, I guess.
I think one of the stories that I read was in this club on Long Island, they would be drinking mint juleps, and this kind of evolved from there because they would be out there in the summertime fishing, etc., obviously drinking. But despite all of that, I think Steph and the consensus was just that despite the many evolutions that this cocktail may have had or different iterations, I think this is the standard accepted version. Modern day,
Right.
100%. If you order a Southside at any bar that shakes tins, you're going to get this drink because this is what has now become a classic cocktail in this style, in this gin sour, variation. There are obviously cocktails that kind of predate this with a similar name. The Southside Fizz comes to mind. That's a drink that we're actually going to explore next, but as a variation off the Southside. But I feel like this is universally accepted, in the modern era of drinking as this cocktail here. So
it should be noted too. I saw in a few different prints of this recipe some bartenders experimenting with adding bitters. So I did see one recipe where the bartender called for Angostura bitters, and another where the bartender called for orange bitters. So those variations do exist.
Yeah,
out
you
there
can give
in
them
the
a
world.
go for sure.
Absolutely.
I think what makes this drink so special, I think there is a level of bitterness from the mint, even when you just shake it, you're not muddling it. So you're already adding that added layer with the mint of like kind of a herbal, almost bitterness. But it's so fresh and vibrant. And I think adding, a bunch of baking spices with Angostura or aromatic bitters, or adding a bunch of orange, which doesn't really belong in a drink that has lime and mint, I think this is a perfect cocktail, just how it is.
Yeah. So for those of you who might be watching this later and not watching the chat, we had a couple of some great feedback. Deliciousness. The mint really pops. It's a seriously refreshing cocktail. Summer tastes like gin. Gin was always my spirit of choice during the summer, whiskey in the winter. Very enjoyable. And then Tom commented that they did round 1 with Bombay versus Ford's gin. And you had 2 votes for Bombay and 1 vote for Ford's. Are you drinking with friends? Because that's fun to have friends in the live stream.
Especially now that we're able to do that.
Yeah.
I hope that you are.
Right. And so what other gins did you use? Give us, if you're just joining us and you haven't chatted a whole lot, like pull up the chat and let us know and give us some feedback on what you thought about this cocktail. And then if you wanted to change something about it, if it came off not balanced in your mind, and you want to ask, what did I do differently, or should I pay attention to? Ask those questions now. I think we talked about a couple variations, right?
Yeah.
You could add bitters to it. You could also, you could
change the spec,
you could change
right?
the spec.
I love this drink just how it is. The equal parts of citrus and sweet, I think, is really beautiful. Obviously, it's inherently balanced. Here on the West Coast, I see a lot of people, including myself, honestly, make this drink with 1 full ounce of citrus as opposed to 3/4. And what that does is it actually dries out the drink a little bit. You get a little bit more acidity, but I like that in my cocktails, especially if you're drinking it with food. It really kind of helps clean the palate. Even an appetizer, right, like a Southside and oysters or an appetizer, something really nice. But yeah, so having that little bit extra citrus will make it a little less sweet on your palate, but it won't change the other ratio, right? It won't taste too boozy. It won't be too acidic. It's also a really nice variation on a perfectly balanced cocktail.
Yeah, if you drop your sugar, but like for example, so the classic is 2, 3/4, 3/4. If you were to bump your sugar down and keep your lime at 3/4, you would end up altering the balance of the cocktail. It would be a little bit too spirit forward. It would be a little too boozy.
And a little too thin, too.
Yeah, and so instead of dropping down your sugar, if you find you want it more tart, you're going to want to bump up your citrus, like Stefan said.
That is such a great tip because for me, when I was starting to learn about cocktails, I don't like really sweet drinks. And so I would just have Sean make me a cocktail with less sweet, but then it ends up being kind of out of balance.
Yes.
That's your first. That's always everybody's first.
It's the first thing,
idea.
right? And
it's
so
just less sugar.
Just less sugar, but actually bump up the citrus, keep the sugar the same, because you're also working with the booze. You're not changing the spec of the booze, and so you don't want it to become too overpowering.
Unless you have obviously a problem, ingesting sugar, then if it's just your taste buds saying, "Hey, this tastes a little too sweet for my liking," try it that other way.
Sure. Question about egg whites and sours. Can you talk about? I think this was Tom. He said a lot of sours have egg white. Any idea why this one did not evolve in that way?
Do you know more about that?
The egg white obviously is synonymous with the whiskey sour. There has pre-Prohibition, as this drink, even though it does semi-predate Prohibition, it really had its heyday in the 20s and 30s, the period when we were attempting to go dry in this country poorly. But it actually, the whiskey sour that predates this era did have egg whites, and then right around Prohibition, our taste buds changed. Especially once we got it through World War I and into World War II. People liked sweeter drinks. They didn't like anything that tasted off in any way because they tended, especially through the war rations, had to end up eating and drinking food that was a little not as fresh as they are today. So that barnyard nose that you get in a egg white cocktail, people started really not liking that. Drinks that were overly sweet, you started showing up, right? So you get into like 60s, 70s, 80s. Those drinks were really, really sweet. I think this drink came out in an era where we had pretty much kind of gone past the egg white sour. Obviously, it was rediscovered in the early 2000s with the cocktail renaissance in New York and San Francisco and Chicago. And then that was when like the pisco sour and stuff really became more popular. But this drink was really an era where egg white sours weren't really a thing.
But you could try it.
Also, we were drinking these in speakeasies. They definitely didn't have modern refrigeration. I wouldn't want an egg that had been sitting down in a speakeasy for 3 weeks.
I would also note that for me, if I'm going to have an egg white cocktail, I want it to be something that's got some kind of depth otherwise. So like a whiskey sour, for example, you've got the Angostura bitters, those like deeper, richer flavors. And then, of course, the whiskey, right? This cocktail is so bright and so delicate already.
Right.
I don't feel like I would need the egg white in this. Whereas if I were doing, say, maybe a mezcal cocktail and I had some like Amaro or something with some richness to it, then I would feel more inclined to try egg white. But when it's this refreshing on its own, I don't need it.
It's something that I have never really seen a drink that had mint and egg whites. I think that like kind of goes against the idea of that really vibrant, cooling freshness to have something that's more like barnyardy, like rich, But that's just two different schools of thought, I guess.
So John wants to drink 5 because they're so balanced and refreshing. You guys should get going.
Fair.
You might be on round 2 or 3 on the other side of the screen. We have more people than cocktails here, so we're gonna keep going here. And while Stefan is, what are you making now, Stefan?
All right, so I'm basically gonna do the South Side Fizz, or sometimes could be called the Ricky, but this is just a lengthened version of the original South Side. And just for fun, we're going to go ahead and switch those specs more to that kind of West Coast 2 1 3/4 build. So we're sticking with the 3/4 ounces of simple syrup. We're going to go ahead and bump up the lime to a full ounce. We juiced this right before the live stream, so we're speeding up the process. And then just for fun, since we already used Beefeaters, we'll go ahead and use the Botanist this time. You all know this is one of our favorites here on the cocktail journey.
I'm going to put 2 recipes in the chat. One is the West Coast build for the South Side, if you want to make one of those, and then the other is going to be the Fizz.
There you go. And I'm going to add that healthy amount of mint. Bink. Very nice. Thank you. I'm just going to grab some ice.
So when Stefan talked about this drink being lengthened, we talked about that in a few of the earlier episodes. That just means you're taking a cocktail that's a little bit more concentrated and you're lengthening it by adding bubbles. Soda water. Soda water? What about other things?
What do you mean?
Is it just soda water
versus soda water?
Tonic
or
water?
Tonic water. Tonic water works great.
Tonic, yeah.
But when it's champagne, it's something else. It's called a...
It's like a spritz.
Yeah, it's a diamond fizz.
Ooh.
That's what it's called.
Virgin has raised an eyebrow at your simple syrup. Is that because you used the cane syrup, right?
Yeah, we used the cane syrup.
So we made what did we do last week? The tea punch. So we did the tea punch last week, and we made a simple using like a raw cane sugar, which is not a refined white sugar, but it's still a sorry, I just got interrupted.
All right, so I don't know if you noticed that, but I added about approximately 2.5 to 3 ounces of soda water or seltzer water into the tin that I shook with. I guess that's like kind of one too many cubes. You never know. Yeah. I actually added it in because that actually incorporates the soda a bit more into the cocktail and actually charges it with bubbles as opposed to just letting them sit on top, which obviously will lengthen the drink, but the first sip you're going to get is all bubbles, which is never good. I prefer to do it that method than to put it on top and then try to switch it around, which is actually going to over-agitate. And all those bubbles that are supposed to be in your drink are now dissipated into the air, which is no fun. And then we're going to do that fun little garnish that we were talking about. So we'll take a nice little bushel of prepared mint leaves.
Beautiful. Beautifully prepared
So much mint. I kind of went a little heavy on the mint. But, you guys will have fun later with it.
Stefan's prepping for a full bar shift.
Yeah, right? You give it a little expression of the mint. And what I'm going to do is that little hole in the middle of this mint wheel, I'm just going to punch through, let it kind of look really sexy like that. Get rid of any little piece, and it just sits on the edge of the glass like that. It works a little bit better on the Fizz version because it sits on the edge of the glass really well. Yeah, we'll get a straw. Just gonna put this mint kind of back in there. You can still kind of float it on the edge of like a coupe glass. It looks really great for a photo, and then about your first sip, it kind of knocks you in the face. But the amazing thing about the mint garnish, although you get a really nice, like light fragrance of mint in the coupe that V served, this is going to be a big nose of mint right in your face as you're drinking it. And as a bartender, I always tell my bartenders to ensure that mint is like served. You know, like if V was my guest, I'd serve it like this. That way, when she goes to sip it, it's going to be like right in her nose, which is going to give her that fragrance.
And of course, he chose beautiful mint, not the one that was chewed by the caterpillar.
Yeah, that happens a lot. I'm always like, this is a really beautiful piece of mint, but it's like, what do you do with this? I can't serve that to a guest.
No, that's what you put in your shaker.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Yeah. So
is it even more refreshing because of the bubbles?
So it should be.
It's just, that's like it's 100 degrees outside today. I need a drink, but I also want to cool down. Like, that's what this Fizz really does for me, at least. The other one is like, I need a drink, all right? I want it refreshing. I want it good. This guy is like, I'm cooling down. It's like, I got home from work. It's evening. It's been hot all day. I just need something to, like, reset.
A little hydration at the same time.
Yeah.
Like
totally.
Like let's stick around the New York element, right? Like in the middle of summer, it gets really hot,
humid,
right?
too.
So you just get home from commuting back home from work or wherever you were commuting from on the train. It's like 150 degrees down the subway. You get home, you're like, I just need this.
Yeah.
The South Side, this is for the Fizz. The South Side is like you just had that day. You're able to cool off in your apartment for a couple hours, wait it out, go have dinner with your friends, then you go to an amazing cocktail bar on like the Lower East Side or something.
And it's like later at night.
Yeah,
now
you're
it's
still
like
kind of
10:30.
hot, but you're not like dying. And then you order a South Side, and you're like, oh, this is great. Even if you're in air conditioning, right? Like it's still very refreshing and
I
fun.
love that we have a whole narrative around
Yeah,
it.
You do.
Can you
You
tell
should.
we're all missing New York City right
I
about
miss
now?
home.
Yeah.
The garnish does look like a pool float.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, you
lemon
guys are
balm.
having fun.
Experimenting.
So Diane's going to try with lemon balm. John Schmid went into the garden earlier, got distracted, and picked elderflower instead of mint. And so he ended up making an elderflower cocktail.
Yeah, I mean, that works too, right? It's in the spirit of the South Side, right? You're grabbing fresh herbs from your garden and expressing it into a gin sour.
Yep.
That sounds great.
Yep.
Yeah.
One other note that I just want to mention about this cocktail, this is a crowd pleaser. So if you you can't dislike this cocktail. There's kind of like no way. So if you have guests over and they have no idea what they want, this is a really easy way to kind of please everyone.
I think this would also be, I don't know if this happens so much now as it did maybe 5-10 years ago, but when I first started really getting into cocktails, I ran into a lot of people who were like, oh, but I don't like gin. Right? And they're like, I don't like gin. I don't do gin. For whatever reason, they were prejudiced against gin.
Yeah.
This is a gin winner.
Yeah.
And we've actually seen, as some of you in the chat have also said, that you prefer a juniper forward gin as you've been testing different gins out. And so a really good one to use with like a London Dry, if you've got one of those. And if somebody doesn't like that piney scent and they wouldn't necessarily enjoy it in a martini up, make them a Southside.
Yeah, honestly, I miss the juniper if I make one of these style of drinks without it. So if I do a real citrusy forward gin where there's very light on the juniper, or even some of these modern botanical vodkas that they're calling gins that don't have juniper at all, I think they get lost in this drink.
Yeah.
Question for you all. What happens if you include the mint stems when you're muddling
That's
or
a question.
shaking?
So-
Does it change the drink?
Yeah, I mean, you can. It's going to add a little bit more of that bitter note that we mentioned earlier in the show. But I have made, when I've done like low waste experiments, I have made like syrups and cordials with mint stems. You do get a lot of flavor, and there's nothing wrong with using them at all. I might even, if you want to get really nerdy, actually try making like a mint simple syrup. And in that case, you could throw in the stems when you're making it.
I actually prefer the stems in that because you get less of the brightness, like less of the bright green color, to be honest. Like you serve somebody like a fluorescent green Southside, and you're like, oh, but I made it. The mint's in the syrup, and you're like, yeah, it's weird. You put Midori in this, So you get a little less of the green if you're using the stems. But yeah, you're good call on that. You're gonna get a little bit more bitterness for sure.
All right, so our audience is chatting about. What about lavender? What about rose petals? What about cilantro? What about basil?
Those will all be delicious, but not a Southside.
Right.
I would say.
It's in the spirit of, right?
Yeah.
It's in a similar vein. And there was a whole period in the early 2000s, I feel like, where we discovered you could literally, oh, I love the Southside. What do we do? Well, instead of changing the base spirit or, splitting the base, all we did was switch out the herb, So we tried everything from lemon balm to basil. Basil is still in our bars now because we did that. I think that's where it originated. Like, oh, let's try that in a gin sour. Oh, shit, it's delicious, right? So yeah, I definitely would, if you like, everybody has their favorite herb. Try it in a cocktail and see if it works. Some of them do, some of them don't,
And then what you're doing, really, if you remove the mint, I don't know if we mentioned this yet, but if you remove the mint from a Southside, you have a gimlet, which is a classic gin cocktail. So gin, lime, simple syrup. So kind of, if you're removing the mint and experimenting with other things, you're still working with that base of the classic gimlet and kind of experimenting with flavor from there.
Where you get where people go wrong is when they forget what the fruit cocktail is, and then just go, I want to put lemon hyssop or into this cocktail. What do I do? And you just start cowboying or cowgirling a cocktail into existence, and it's completely out of balance because you're not tethered to a classic spec. So if you're sticking around the classic gin gimlet and just playing around with herbs, you're going to have something that's really delicious as long as you like that particular herb, right? If you don't like cilantro, you're one of those people where it tastes like soap to you. Don't put that in there. Yeah, right? But if you love cilantro, if you're like, I put as much possible into my taco, then yes, you should try it like that. And there's even gins that have like coriander in them, right? There's a lot of gins that have coriander. There's one here in San Diego, Old Harbor San Miguel, that's heavy on the coriander flavor. That might be something you want to work with. But I highly suggest doing that. Just always keep in mind what the base cocktail is. That way you can really maintain a certain level of balance.
Curious to hear from you all if you preferred the regular spec or the first spec versus the West Coast spec, if anyone bumped up their lime.
Yeah.
Also, John observes that, I think talking about gin and these different flavor profiles of gin, different herbs are going to work differently with different gins, right? And so, just test it out. If you've got 3 or 4 different gins that you drink on a regular basis, then rotate through those and then think about, I love Martin Miller's, which I think is a very citrusy forward gin.
Sure.
And so that might be, if you don't have the juniper in one of these, you might go with like a more pungent herb, right?
Sure.
To bring out some of that instead of just the nice light kind of mint flavor here. If you
or
want
lavender even.
Or a lavender.
Very subtle.
Oh, lavender and like the citrus element.
Nice.
That'd be great.
Always great. Should we make an A for you? Have you been?
Oh yeah, you want to make one for me?
Just that real quick. You want to just do equal parts of the lemon and?
If you're new to the
would say
live stream, sometimes you're going to be serving guests who aren't drinking spirits or hard alcohol at the time.
Syrup, I mean.
So it's
Right
also.
That's right. Oh, here it is. Yeah. Boom.
So it's nice
regular.
sometimes to have a few tricks up your sleeve to serve guests who are abstaining from alcohol.
Cool.
And Stefan, tell us what you did with this syrup.
Oh, once again, using tea, we're just taking a green tea and making a simple syrup out of it. So equal parts green tea and sugar. And it's beautiful syrup. I'm using 1.5 ounces of that and 1.5 ounces of lime juice. We're bumping up these ingredients because we're not adding another ingredient other than a lengthener. So we're just going to do equal parts of those. We're going to do this up again with some soda water. Cool. Hey, thank you. Appreciate it. The teamwork here is impeccable.
Right.
And then, last but not least, we're definitely going to add the mint back in to keep in the spirit of today's cocktail. Add our ice.
I think this is going to be delicious.
I think so too.
I don't think we can go wrong.
I think the green tea would be really great stuff.
Sorry, it's right by my microphone.
No, they love it. They love it.
It's like cocktail ASMR.
Cool.
But yeah, I think the green tea would be, because we're missing the gin, right? And we're missing that, like, herbaceous.
I'm not missing the gin now.
No, but right, exactly. The green tea will help us to kind of recover a little bit of what's going to be lost.
We're also adding a little bit more soda because we need a little bit more volume into this large glass. Once again, just giving it a little quick couple turns around after I add that soda in there.
Swirly?
A little swirly. Yeah, there you go. The swirlies. And then once again, I think we'll add just a touch more to fill her up.
It's beautiful. Both the green tea syrup and the mint add this beautiful color to it.
Yeah. And here's the one where we're just going to blast it with a ton of
Yay.
mint.
A bouquet,
A bouquet.
as I like to call it.
Yeah, the tiki bar bouquet. There you go. And you can also do this, just like that.
Kind of
Give
keep
them
that
both in
mint.
there.
Do you want to talk to... Oh, that looks beautiful.
Yeah.
I love it.
And it's going to be delicious because I already tried it.
How'd you make the green tea simple syrup?
Great, yeah. So I just took some green tea
So
from our tea
Thank
area.
you.
I can't remember where it came from. I can't remember what brand it was. Anyways, it was just two bags of green tea for 8 ounces of hot water. I let that steep for about 2 minutes.
That's great.
And then I went ahead and
Good.
weighed
mine.
out how much. Yeah, right, it's so good. I weighed out how much of the tea I had left over, and then added the exact same amount in grams of sugar, of cane sugar, and then stirred that together to incorporate.
So
That is
essentially
so
making a simple
delicious.
syrup
Right.
out of the
A complex
hot water.
syrup?
Complex syrup?
Yeah.
Ah.
But same premise as
Same
the
premise,
simple
yeah.
syrup, except instead of just warm water, you're swapping out the tea. It's one of my favorite ways to really easily make some interesting cocktail like flavors or ingredients.
Totally.
That's fantastic.
That's like a really good limeade. Is what it is, right? And the green tea we used, isn't really pungent. It's just enough, right? It's not like it's not
Not too
really
astringent.
earthy. Yeah. Oh yeah, it's perfect.
Isn't that delicious?
That's like
I almost don't.
I wish Sonic had limeade that was that good.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Like,
The green tea, it's like it has that earthy, just mellow. I don't know what I'm falling short of the word. I know I'm the English major here too, but
pregnant brain. Yeah.
thank
can
you.
do it.
Pregnant brain.
You have an excuse.
I do. It's a real thing, you guys.
Michelle, if you want that super vibrant green tea syrup, what I suggest you do is, or like that for sure. But if you want to make like a really vibrant green mint syrup, I would suggest blanching the mint first, which means just putting them like stems up in boiling water for like 5 seconds, and then immediately dousing them in like an ice bath, and then you can blend that up with a simple syrup, and you'll have like a stupid vibrant green mint tea mint syrup that'll last for a few days.
Could you get matcha to dissolve in a simple syrup?
Yeah, you'll just have to
Everything
go
to
ahead
blend
you have to go through all the steps that you normally would to make a matcha tea, right? So you need to bloom it and make sure that you are using a pretty good small filtration. And then once you've brewed the tea, then you could just add that same amount of sugar to volume, and you've got yourself a really delicious matcha simple
tea
syrup.
syrup.
Yeah.
Great. Who else has questions? Dissolve the matcha first.
Absolutely. Take all the steps that you would
or you can
making
just listen
any
to John,
other.
because he definitely knows his stuff.
John knows his stuff. I also saw earlier in the chat that John actually said he has a larger garden than he does a bar, which to me is impressive because I think I remember seeing on an earlier episode you had over 100 bottles of bitters in your bar.
Oh,
So you must have quite an extensive garden as well.
I don't have the land for that.
No. John, where do you live?
Yeah.
He's in Pittsburgh.
Yeah. I don't have the little tiny patio I've got.
This is that time of the year, though, everyone, that if you want to have fresh herbs around,
Cocktail garden.
go buy the little 4-inch pots and plant them in some potting soil. Then you have fresh herbs in your garden. Mint is one of those plants that'll grow really, really well in your garden. If you give it water, it's actually can be a little bit invasive if you don't put it in a pot. And so you want to try to contain it unless you want it to go wild and take up a lot of space. But in San Diego, we have to worry about watering because we don't have enough
for mint
water.
especially, because mint is just a water.
It does. But if you live in a place that gets plenty of water, just plant some mint in your garden.
The American South, where mint grows, on the side of the road, all year round. I was just at Redbird in LA, this incredible restaurant in LA, downtown LA. It's actually in the rectory of the old cathedral for LA. And in the old cathedral garden, they have like basically a garden for the restaurant, and then the bar has a little section. It's just the whole way to the restroom is just mint, like on both sides. It's pretty cool. And I'm like, you guys use this for cocktails, right? They're like, oh yeah, this long walkway down to like where the rectory is. And,
Love that.
yeah, it's pretty cool. But if you're going to grow a bar, like a garden for your bar, don't fall into the trap I did when I first thought that was a great idea like 10 years ago. And I was like, oh, I'll grow some wormwood. That'd be fun. And the wormwood killed everything in the garden because it kills everything. It's all it does. So don't plant wormwood. Just buy good absinthe.
Yeah, I would recommend that.
Yeah, I mean,
second that.
Yeah, it's stupid. I don't know. I mean, I don't even think you could buy absinthe when I did that. I was like, well, maybe I could make my own.
You were going to try to make your own?
No, I mean, obviously not. But I was going to die trying, I guess. Or my mate was going to die trying, yeah. I didn't feel cool when everything died, that's for sure.
How many people did you brag to about your wormwood in your garden before it died?
Nobody.
So
It literally, it was like 3 days, and then everything had died.
That's all it takes.
So, do you all want to make another cocktail?
I can.
Yeah,
What
why
would you
not?
make? Where would you go from here? If somebody came up to the bar and said,
I loved
the South Side. Can you mix it up for me?
You want to do that, or do you want me to do that?
I mean, considering that we don't have, a back
I'm like
bar.
looking at what we have here.
I'm trying to think. So I also, a disclaimer, due to COVID, I have not been behind a bar in over a year. So I'm a little rusty on my on-the-fly wrist. However, what I think I might have done, I would go one of two directions. I would either split my base, and so maybe try like a rum agricole and kind of going halfway between a Southside and a daiquiri. And the rum agricole is going to add like this really nice grassy, funky note to it.
Mm-hmm.
Or I might go more in the direction of like a daisy. So something, adding in a liqueur or something like that.
Adding in that orange liqueur we were talking about.
That would be fun.
Yeah, we have falernum.
We have falernum.
If I was behind my bar, I'd make a Missionary's Downfall.
What's that?
So it's a classic tiki cocktail that's basically a blended mint daiquiri with usually a stone fruit liqueur added in, which is really tasty. But we don't have the blender, the peach liqueur to make that happen here. But I would definitely go research the Missionary's Downfall. An absolutely delicious cocktail. Did he leave the Petit Con or Con Bleu? Yeah, you should make this drink.
So for those of you who have been with us and were here last week, you probably have some rum agricole in your bar because we did the tea punch last week. So you could do that split base that V was talking about. Is that what we're going to do?
That's what
Yeah,
I'm
Let's do it. We should do it.
Let's do it. I'm going to make sure there's glass.
And if you don't have a rum agricole, you could also split it with something else like a rum or a tequila
Yeah,
or a mezcal.
Any
right?
white rum will do. Any tequila will do. Mezcal if you like smoky.
If you like smoky.
You could even go full 2 ounces on the mezcal. That would be delightful.
Mm-hmm.
And if I were home, that's probably what I'd be making because I tend to gravitate towards making mezcal cocktails for myself.
Mm-hmm. So this is where we get to do the fun, the play part.
I'm also going to add a dash of orange bitters.
Oh, shoot.
I'm just gonna have
Here
a
we
little fun
go.
with it. I'm going for 1 dash. I don't want it to be too overpowering. I find that orange bitters sometimes can do a little bit too much, so I go pretty light on those. And then I'm just going to, let's see, I'm going to go 50-50 here. I'm going to go 1 ounce on my rum agricole, and then I'm going to go 1 ounce on my gin. And I'm actually going to swap my gin. I know we've talked up our London dry gins and our juniper forward gins. But I feel like my agricole rum is going to be doing a lot of the heavy lifting here. So I'm going to go for something a little bit softer. We mentioned botanist before. I'm going to run with that.
Not bad, even after 10 minutes of dilution.
All right.
Sign of a good cocktail if it can handle 10 minutes of dilution.
Yeah.
That's right.
Mint sprigs. Get some onions.
You do your 3/4 lime, 3/4.
I did
Simple.
3/4. I stuck to it.
Brooklyn.
I miss home, you guys. I am going home soon, though. So
I know.
I miss New York City, too.
New York's just got something, like, especially in the summer, too. The energy in New York City, as hot and sticky as it gets, and smelly, too. It's just, there's nothing like
I hear
it.
it's popping off right now.
I know it is. I can't wait. Yeah. There we go.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. It's like I can hear it talking to me. It's like,
Mhm.
I'm ready.
We like that sound.
I'm ready. I'm ready.
Looks good.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Smells good too.
It does.
Martinique Agricole is like the jam.
Oh,
This
yeah.
is. I'm really bummed I missed last week, but I'm glad that Dylan was here to cover for me.
It was great. Did you guys like Dylan?
Dylan's the
He
man.
was fantastic.
Puts on a show. You should see him like do the full pyrotechnics.
Oh,
It's
Lord.
crazy.
Oh, that'll be fun.
That's fun.
And take everyone there who has tried a different version of something, take a note from Tom and put your variation in the chat so you can share with your friends. Tom did round 2 as a fizz with Luxardo Sour Cherry Gin,
Very cool.
but the lime and the mint were completely overwhelmed.
Sure.
So you might
That
want to do a
makes
split.
sense.
You could do a split base,
Yeah.
right? A little bit of that gin and then a little
What do you
bit of
think?
like a London Dry.
Fitty.
So, I like it, but I think the Agricole takes over too much.
Yeah, you could probably
I want more gin.
You could probably
So
bring
I
the gin to
Bump
1.5.
up the gin. Yep. 1.5, and then
I
maybe
like the
half
idea,
ounce
though.
of the Agricole.
Mm.
Yeah. Delightful, though.
That just wants. Talking about Luxardo, like something like that with just a pop of Luxardo, maraschino. Would
Right?
be pretty
That
good to
was
dry out.
actually what I was going to say. 'Cause
Mhm.
we have some maraschino here, and I think maraschino would be delightful in a riff on this cocktail.
Make it.
Totally.
Yeah.
We got
How much
crew.
time do we have?
We still have 14 minutes on the live stream.
Ooh. You want to
let's
make
do
a little?
Yeah, let's do it. I'll make a little.
Your turn.
I'll
Okay,
make a
so if
little.
you were gonna adjust that, would you do what, 3/4 rum Agricole?
I
or
would,
a
yeah.
half?
I know. I would go to 1.5 of the gin,
Okay.
and then half ounce of the Agricole.
Okay.
Rum Agricole, that the funky notes in it, they really do. They shine through. It can be a little bit of a bully, but I mean in a good way because I love it. But I would probably do 1.5 gin and half ounce of the rum Agricole, and then you would just have it as this subtle background note.
Yeah.
Or we could just go fully.
You could just go full rum
Just go
Agricole.
full in. That way we're not worried about the gin not working out.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Okay.
We should make them all. My sister Rebecca's in town. For those of you who've been on the live stream, Rebecca's been in the chat every once in a while asking questions, and she's located in Pennsylvania. So she's in town, and she's going to bring the kids home. And she's like, I'd love to be able to sit in the live stream. I think that would be fun. I said, yeah,
Where is
sure.
she?
She decided to spend time with the kids instead.
Oh, I mean, you can't.
But she's going to come home, and we're going to make her a cocktail. So we can make plenty of cocktails, you guys, because
Because you've got people to drink them. Is that
we
what-
have people to drink
That's
them.
what you're saying?
Yeah.
Funny.
Sean is salivating over on the other side of the bar.
I just
I
wanna
just want to be
closer.
involved.
All right, so we're going to go with 1/4 ounce of Luxardo. I used a full ounce of lime. That could have probably got bumped down just a little bit, but it won't be the end of the world.
What if you did agave?
Have we decided which one? This is
The warm one is the.
All right, and then we're going to go with 3/4 of an ounce of simple syrup still, because that maraschino is kind of a drying sensation. And then we're going to do 2 ounces of La Favorite, or any of your favorite rum will work. I like the Agricole because it's super grassy and funky and delicious.
So good.
That
So-
smells good.
1/4 ounce Luxardo, 3/4 simple.
3/4 simple, 1 lime, and 2 ounces of Martinique. We use that short. I'll use the shorty. This little guy right here. Boom. Cool. Thank you. Appreciate that.
To mint or no mint?
Oh, we're going to add the mint for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, we got to keep to the
We got
south
to keep
side.
to the south
We
side.
changed
I
everything
think I
else.
put it in there.
It's now a
No, I did not.
daiquiri with mint.
I know. We're just making a daiquiri now. It's not
Get that mint in there.
freaking bartenders.
I know. You start out. Start out.
Any excuse to make a daiquiri, we're probably going to make one. This was my shake after 220 espresso martinis at the Sylvester Bar in Miami. Everything was really close to the body. And I was foolish enough
How
to
long had it been since you had
shaken that many?
properly bartended?
Oh, that was the first time in over a year.
Wow.
I mean, I've done a couple guest shifts, but they were more like princess shifts.
We're
That
rusty, guys.
That
Be
was
nice
a Friday
to us,
night
okay?
like barn burger. I had so much fun with those guys, though. It was their first like busy Friday night post-COVID, and they were just rocking.
Yeah, some of
Love
you have
that.
been open for a while, but California, not so much.
Man, they're wide open right now. Let's do that cute trick with the.
You need some limes
the
here?
mint
Oh, you're going to give up one of your limes? Before the show, V was like, these are mine.
No, he did that. I was like, I can share.
Well, no,
we just knew we had
corrected.
very
We both
different
had different
garnishes
ideas.
planned.
Yeah, so
So
if
we
you
were-
just put the little guy just like that, it'll sit on the edge of the drink. Very cute.
It looks
right?
beautiful.
Oh.
It will fall though once you sip
Oh, yeah.
it. So
Oh,
great for
100%.
photos, like he said. Not the
Not
most
so much
practical, but you know.
Yeah, but also
who needs practical?
I mean, most garnishes aren't practical, right?
No.
I mean, they can have some sort of a purpose, right? This one
Yes.
gets the mint right off,
Aroma.
like in the nose, which is what I want. But it's not practical to drink.
Yeah.
Oh, that is delicious.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, come on, a Martinique daiquiri.
Then I'll put it in the chat.
Just a little bit of. That's nice.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I love what the maraschino does.
Yeah, and I mean,
A little goes a long way.
totally. But I was a little worried that it would be just over diluted with the extra. I actually was thinking of doing 3/4 lime, but I think it's perfect just the way it is, especially because most Martinique rum is higher in proof.
Mm.
This is probably at least 100 proof.
I think so.
On
I think we looked for it last week.
Last time too.
And I think
is
we
this
found
even
it.
legal to have in the
It's
States?
somewhere. It's in a weird
It's
spot.
somewhere up there.
It's more. Most agro rum is at least 100 proof, if not more. Oh man,
It's hard to find,
trying to
huh?
get in here.
So Sienna said that she did a cotton and reed rum, which is local to DC,
Okay,
and plus
nice.
gin. So she did a rum gin split base.
cool.
Nice.
Anybody else try anything?
I'm gonna have to check out that DC rum when I'm out there
Yeah,
next month.
Who needs practical? Presentation wins the day. I
that's
like
right,
it,
Virgin. That's
Virgin
right.
knows what he's
That's
talking
right.
Although we'll say it falls apart, but we're halfway through this drink and,
And
the
it's
garnish is
still
still
going.
chilling.
Yeah.
You just have to be a professional about placement.
I think more so than practical, right? Like you said, it serves a purpose. And
Yep.
I really like to, when I'm thinking about
There
what
it
garnish,
goes. There it goes. It was the fourth person sipping it that finally it went down.
when I'm thinking about what garnish I want to put on a drink, I want it to contribute to the experience. So whether that's just visual or it's visual and like aromatic, so you're, you know, because the way that we taste it is first through our sense of scent and then through our taste buds. So, and this definitely achieves that goal.
Brian would actually say you taste first with your eyes.
Oh, okay. So eyes, then nose, then taste buds. Yeah.
I got you, B.
I always say the more senses you can get involved
Yes.
in the process of either drinking a drink or having a dish, like eating a dish, is the better, right? It's going to be more memorable. It's going to be you're going to remember it the day after or the day after that. If you're going to crave another, you might even order another on the spot, right? Like you crushed one so fast, you're like, I'll just take another. That was too delicious.
Very
That's like
crushable.
the magic of
Right.
of
But that's the reason.
cocktails
That's half the
and
reason
food
why you.
experiences, right?
If you totally. If you have enough time to think about your guests coming over and you put your glassware in the freezer, everything is ice cold. Like that first thing you see, you're visually making contact with the drink. Oh, this looks delicious. And you put your hands on it, it's frozen cold. And you're like, okay, all right, I like this already. Get it on your lips. Now your nose is in it. You can smell it. You're tasting it. You get all the senses.
Love that.
And you're already hearing it, right? Because you're hearing the shake.
And that's the magic of it. I love that. Aw.
John, did you get to? I want to know if you got to 5, because I think that was either the plan or the failed plan, is if you made it to 5 or not.
Cicada.
Now we're talking about cicadas and
Yeah, it's all over the place.
Apparently
Wow,
you can
we
eat
are in
them.
summer. We're fully in
You
summer.
can eat them.
You can eat cicadas?
Yeah, as long as you don't have a shellfish allergy, CDC says.
Oh, there you go.
I have one.
Good to
so
know.
I can't eat a cicada. I mean, I have the the grasshoppers down in Mexico. You can have those.
Y'all, we are getting close. You see that? I'm turning country already. We've got about 5 minutes left in the live stream, and I wanted to take a minute and provide you with an update and an announcement. We have, gosh, what are we? Are we on 18 live streams?
Something around
Something
there.
like that.
We're approaching 20.
We're getting into it, and we have had so much fun doing this with everyone, and like inviting and getting to know all of you in the audience. But we have to let you know that we have to move our studio. So for reasons which there are many, we have to actually change our physical space. We will continue to do live streams, but we're going to need to take a 2 to 3 week break from the visual live stream in this space so that we can relocate it to our new location. So just so you know, we're not pausing on cocktails. We're going to keep going through the 52 cocktails in 52 weeks. So if you are on our email list, if you are a member of the Cocktail Journey, you'll keep getting those Saturday emails. If you're not, go to thecocktailjourney.com, scroll to the bottom, put your name and your email address in the bottom, and you'll start getting weekly emails about the cocktail that we're exploring that week. In lieu of the visual live stream, this experience here, which we will get started up again in about 3 weeks-ish, depending on how quickly we can reset our bar at the new location. Stefan's eyeing Sean. Sean's got a lot of work cut out for him in the next 2 weeks. In lieu of that, we're going to be doing, exploring a couple of different chat options. And so we had a Clubhouse chat a couple of weeks ago. We're going to do a Clubhouse chat for next Thursdays in lieu of the live stream. We're going to be doing the Rosita cocktail.
This will be my great excuse to
Delicious.
actually get in.
You know, you're going to actually have to get onto
fun.
Clubhouse.
Everybody's
It's a lot
like,
of fun.
I have a link. I'm like, I don't know if I want your link.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Clubhouse is
I
available as an app that you can download on iPhone and Android. It's a voice chat. So it's not social. It's like network.
It feels like you're sitting in on a podcast or a seminar, except that you can contribute.
It's interactive.
Yeah.
It's
So-
not like an AOL chat
Right.
Yeah.
No.
Okay,
No.
good, 'cause that's what I was worried.
No.
Virgin
Voice.
was there, and
Okay.
it was so fun because I actually could talk to Virgin
Yes.
in real time
That's
and
cool.
have him up on stage, and he could chat back at me. And we met some great people during that Clubhouse
Fancy
chat.
Zoom.
It's fancy Zoom, but you don't have to be on camera,
Oh, cool.
So you
Which
can
is
be
really
lounging
nice.
on your couch.
so you could be totally in your
making
PJs,
dinner.
whatever. I could be like,
I mean, all my live streams are all my Zoom calls are at 9 a.m. because it's all East Coast time, and everybody's like, it's noon, 11 over there, and I'm like, fresh from a night of being
9
out in
a.m.
the
This
market,
guy,
and I'm
9
like,
a.m. I wake up at, we'll talk about that one. So join us next week on Clubhouse. You can if you go download the app right now, if you don't have it, it's on iPhone and also on Android. Once you download the app and claim your username, you might just get let in. If you don't get let in and you need an invitation, just email me. Email me at info@thecocktailjourney.com and I can get you an invite or get you somebody who can get you an invite. I will need your phone number for your cell phone in order to send an invite to you. And then what I think we're going to do is potentially also try out a Discord chat. So we'll do a Discord, which is chat and audio, potentially the week after that. That was a suggestion that John Park made earlier about having, exploring some of these different areas that we could then add to a member's experience going forward in addition to the live streams once we get back online. So we appreciate your patience in the 2 to 3 weeks that we're going to be not on camera, but we're going to still send cocktails to you, and we're going to still have chats and have some of our experts join us in Clubhouse and in Discord to answer all of your questions about the cocktail of the week. Lastly, if you're going to miss that visual component, Sean and Megan have been taking beautiful photos. They just did a photo shoot with V yesterday for like 7
much fun.
cocktails.
wow, really?
We got through 7 cocktails in like 4 or
Excellent.
5 hours. Maybe
So
4
fun.
hours.
So if you
Good
want to
times.
follow
Awesome.
along visually and feed those senses, go follow us on Instagram.
Yeah.
It's, what are we?
Nope.
Cocktail
Hold one.
JRNY.
There you go.
So go find us on Instagram. Instagram is also a great way to stay up to date with the Clubhouse invitation because they link together. So we'll post on Instagram right before we go live on Clubhouse. So we will hear you next Thursday at 4:30 Pacific, 7:30 Eastern on Clubhouse. And stay tuned for those emails that are coming out. And we will be so excited to share our new studio space with you in just a couple of weeks.
Cheers, y'all.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers
Bye.
to the South Side and the Rosita next week.
And
Oh,
to
yeah,
our
we said-
guests.
Cheers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. No.
It's not.
This cocktail is so good.
That's bomb.
We need to have more of those.
Yeah,
Let's
that's,
make it
that's
more
a
of
cocktail.
Yeah,
That's
we should
a
make
thing.
some more of those.
We need that.
Sorry, this looks like a full-on dump sink in here.
Yeah, it's rough, but
It's bad.
okay.
We should have thought about like a basket.